A single fast food delivery order today often costs just as much as an entire week's worth of raw groceries for a home. This chart shows the true cost of convenience. A standard $37 order directly from a restaurant balloons to over $63 on DoorDash. That is a 71% markup, driven by shadow inflation, menu price takes, and stacked service fees. To escape this cycle, we have to borrow the workflow of a professional kitchen. This is the Fakeaway Matrix, a method of component cooking that turns basic, inexpensive groceries into premium, restaurant-quality meals in under 15 minutes. By ditching the delivery apps and abandoning the rigid structure of traditional meal prep, you can reduce your food budget by 30% without sacrificing the food you actually want to eat. Step 1 takes place on a Sunday afternoon. We start by building what the restaurant industry calls a mother sauce. You simmer a massive volume of onions, garlic, ginger, and tomatoes. Season it heavily with your core spices, and then aggressively blend it down into a smooth, thick liquid. This diagram illustrates the British Indian restaurant workflow. Commercial kitchens rely on this inexact master base gravy to drive their menus. You freeze portions of this hot sauce. Later, that single base splits off to create distinct meals, like tikka masala, grill fraise, or korma. By front-loading the heavy chopping and simmering to your weekend, assembling dinner on a Friday night becomes faster than waiting for a driver to navigate traffic. But a fast sauce isn't enough if the meat tastes like a struggle meal. Home cooks usually relapse to delivery apps because their homemade proteins turn out tough, chewy, and gray. The fix starts with a physical cut. Take a cheap cut of beef and slice strictly against the grain to mechanically shorten the muscle fibers. Next, you apply a chemical technique that Chinese takeout restaurants use to achieve that signature silky texture. It's called velveting. Coat the meat with a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda and 2 teaspoons of cornstarch per half pound. Then let it rest for 20 minutes. The baking soda acts as a powerful tenderizer. Its high alkalinity raises the meat's pH level, which forces those tightly wound muscle proteins to relax. This prevents the fibers from bonding together and clumping up when they hit a hot pan. Be precise with your measurements. Using too much baking soda or forgetting to rinse it off particularly tough cuts will leave you with an unpleasant, soapy, metallic taste. Mastering this specific chemical process allows you to purchase the cheapest supermarket cuts of beef or poultry while consistently replicating the exact texture of premium takeout, with the base sauce frozen and the meat tenderized. We build out the rest of the meal matrix using simple carbohydrates and fibrous vegetables. You batch cook filling items like bulk brown rice or plain noodles. Then you mass roast vegetables like broccoli and bell peppers to lock in their flavor. Here is the golden rule of this system. All of these prepped items must be stored in strictly isolated, single-ingredient containers. Keeping ingredients isolated eliminates the soggy textures and flavor bleeding of traditional meal prep. By Wednesday, you won't experience the palate burnout that typically ends with throwing away food and ordering takeout. Now let's see how this matrix performs on a chaotic weeknight. On Monday, you grab velvety chicken, rice, and roasted peppers. Toss them in a pan with a thawed portion of your mother sauce and a splash of coconut milk, and you have a rich chicken korma in exactly 10 minutes. On Tuesday, you pull velvety beef, broccoli, and noodles. Pass them through roaring heat with soy sauce, and it becomes a vibrant Asian stir-fry. The proteins remain glossy and tender, holding up perfectly against a $25 restaurant order. Selecting just one item from each column of your fridge generates a completely unique meal. It honors your specific daily appetite and completely removes the decision fatigue that drives you to a delivery app. Look at the sheer variety on the table. All of this comes from a single, highly focused prep session over the weekend. By stripping out the massive app markups, service fees, and shadow inflation, the cost of a typical $30 meal drops down to roughly $4. Stop scrolling through delivery menus. Go check your fridge for the raw ingredients you already own, and try the velveting technique for yourself tonight. Taking control of your supply chain is a permanent optimization of your household economy.